call the meeting to order at 5:30. Roll call
Chair Lane,
here.
Vice Chair Hodges,
Here.
and Commissioner Pichotte.
Here. Christy, do you want to read that part?
Yes, sorry. Please, so this is a special announcement regarding public comments. Please wait for the commission chair to ask for speakers at each item. When it is time, please use the raise your hand function online to request to speak. If you're attending by telephone, please press 9. You'll be unmuted, or your area code and last 2 digits of your phone number will be called when it's time for you to speak. Please be aware that Personnel Commission Rule 2.9.a states that employees, employee organizations, and other interested parties will be provided reasonable opportunity to present their views orally. Your comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name.
Okay,
And then we have
Section-
approve of the agenda, sorry.
yeah, section B3, approve the agenda. Can I have a motion that we accept the agenda for tonight?
I move to accept the agenda for this evening.
Okay,
I
second.
second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, comments from Personnel Commission. Andy?
Oh, I just hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving and everybody was nice and warm except me. And that everybody stays safe and happy and healthy in the coming months.
Okay, Pat?
I just again want to say thank you to everybody at HUSD for the virtual learning that you guys are doing. It's working out really good so far, at least for our grandson. It is, but I think the schools overall are doing a great job. And then hope everybody stays healthy over the holiday season and have a great holiday.
Okay, I'd like to congratulate the new board members, Peter Buffetti and Sarah Prada, on their being elected as new board members. Their first meeting was Monday. I watched a little bit of the board meeting. I missed the very first part of their swearing in, but thanks to Pat, I got caught up. So I did watch the discussion on plans for resuming classes and what you're dealing with and what needs to be done. And so I found that very interesting. I too would like to say everybody stay well. My daughter has COVID. She got it came down with it last week, but fortunately she's not in the hospital. So thank goodness. So, but wear those masks, that's what counts, and glad we have a vaccine started. Mr. Yanez for executive comments.
Yeah, I do. I think, as you guys are all well aware, we've moved into the purple tier as a county a few weeks ago. So there's been a lot of shifts and changes. The fortunate thing is that I think we're in a better place than we were before as a district. We have seen a steady rise in cases. Fortunately, they haven't been workplace related, but they have been employees who have come to work or have called and kind of said, hey, I'm having symptoms or I'm positive. So we have seen a steady increase. But again, we've been fortunate that we haven't had any workplace breakouts. And part of that has to do with kind of our work setting situation. Everyone wears their PPE. I keep mine on my neck. It's real easy to throw up. I have my filter in there. And we have a lot of the supplies and hand sanitizer, things that we like back in March and April, we were scrambling for hand sanitizer, for masks, for gloves. So I think we're in a different place. That being said, we have to remain vigilant. Diane, as you just shared, I mean, it's getting closer and closer to us, to our inner circles, and we can't let up yet, and I think that really is a good segue into, you know, as you pointed out at the board meeting, we were initially starting the process of starting a small cohort program. We're just going to start talking about hybrid approach to starting school again, and between the purple tier and just between kind of our realities, you know, we've kind of looked at it and kind of made this decision of kind of going through, because people want to know what's happening, what are we doing, what's the plan, and the reality of it is that the safest plan for us to do right now is to resume and continue with distance learning. Work with our labor partners in that process to see how we can strengthen that for students. Pat, I appreciate your comments that it's working well for your grandson. We do know that we have many families that it isn't, you know, unfortunately, you know, we have our students with special needs, second language learners, you know, some folks just need that in-person kind of approach. So, you know, we're looking at how can we strengthen that. And then we're also looking at going back to kind of the small cohort approach to maybe trying to just do a couple hours a day for small cohorts of students. But again, that's going to be a work in progress that maybe we'll revisit in January. Obviously, we're going to look at what the impacts are when our winter recess is over, kind of just as we're seeing an uptick in cases now from what folks did on Thanksgiving. We anticipate that if folks don't kind of, again, remain vigilant, we could potentially see the same thing happening, you know, second week in January. So we're definitely on the lookout looking for that. So I think those pieces, and then I do want to also share that we've been looking at other districts. On Friday, I'm going to visit the county and over here at the Alameda County Office of Education. Kim and I are going to go, and what it is that any school district that plans on opening and resuming in-person instruction has to have a testing plan in place for its employees. So we're going to go, the county has signed on to with a group. I can't, the name just, it escapes me right now. It starts with a C. We're going to watch them, and it's a swab test that they do. And what we would have to do as a district is that before we could resume in-student instruction, we would have to have a testing program for all of our employees. So these are requirements that are being put upon all employers, especially public school, you know, public employers, with regards to doing this. So with the whole idea being behind that is that it would be cyclical, and everyone would get tested at least once a month through this process. So it's an interesting time when you kind of think about it, you know. So we're looking at that, and then there's just a lot of additional requirements that Cal OSHA is placing upon not just the school district, but, you know, public businesses and public services and employers, as well as OSHA at the federal level. So we have to have a monitoring system. We have to be able to track our data that goes back 45 days as to who was in a building, who was where. So there's a lot of things that we have to fine tune just with regards to being able to know the whereabouts of folks. So that we can have a comprehensive contact tracing program. Right now, we've been able to do it just kind of because, you know, initially when all of this started, they were we were contacted like in episodes, like maybe once a month. We'd have someone that say, oh, you know, I think I was possibly, you know, COVID, or saying, you know, contacts, you know, close contact. Now we're at the place to where we're probably getting, I don't want to raise an alarm here, but we're probably at maybe 3 or 4 a week that we're getting. So we're seeing a lot more of these cases happening. We do know that the FFCRA is going to term out, and that's the Families First, the Corona aid for families and for employees that gave, you know, 80 hours in the event people had to quarantine. Also was helpful with regards to folks who had to have childcare. So we're at this interesting kind of place as we close out this month, this year. But again, hopefully with light at the end of the tunnel, as was mentioned, you know, the vaccine coming through, really hopeful. But again, I think we still need to remain very vigilant in terms of masking up, limiting our contacts, and really only going out when we have to go out. And I think just, and so then just to add to that, we're winding down. We did do a laptop distribution that EIT has been very instrumental in doing over at the hub. Christy has done a great job of getting additional support from our SEIU folks that aren't working because, like bus drivers, there's no buses to drive, but they still came out. We had different classifications that we're supporting in that process. We practiced all of the social distancing pieces, all of the precautionary pieces, plexiglass, gloves, PPE, sanitizing, all of those things. So that was great. And again, we're winding that down. We've swapped out probably, I want to say 1,500 laptops. So it's been the demands of Zoom, the demands on being able to provide a quality piece. As you heard Christy say, here she is with her computer and she was having some technical difficulties. Imagine that with our staff, and so even if you have 10% of teachers who are having technical difficulties, that's a lot of people. So we've swapped out computers. We've used the funding that we've gotten to do that. So that's been great. And again, just in that partnership and ensuring safety first. And we've been, fingers crossed, we've been fortunate that, again, we've kept things at bay. And then just the last one I just want to share is that food service was able to put together boxes of food for families, and we were able to do that at 15 sites yesterday. I had the honor of going over to Treeview and helping in that endeavor. Not as much foot traffic there, but I know that Roos, Tyrell, Winton, I mean, some of these sites, they were done in 15 minutes. So the demand is there. It's really a needy time. So, I think we should count our blessings and I just, again, wish everyone health and prosperity as we kind of try to put 2020 behind us, moving forward. And hopefully the dice, they treat us well. So, it's just been an interesting time. And I think that concludes my long-winded comments.
I just have one question.
Sure.
To test the entire group of employees is a huge undertaking. I understand that. But it seems like it should be more often than once a month with so much COVID going around with so many people. Do you think that that's sufficient?
I think that that's at a minimum with regards to what the requirement is. I'm not sure. I can't really speak to sufficiency and the such. I think that I'm with you. There's so much that is going on that what is a good time? I mean, a test is, any test you take is just, it's a moment in time that can only capture there. And even then, if you test it too soon from a possible exposure, that test wouldn't pick it up. So I'm with you on like how often it should be happening, but we definitely have to follow whatever the dictates are of the county health department. And they're definitely working with the county schools, the county, Alameda County Office of Education. So it's kind of this collective as we're looking and looking to get better at doing it. I think one of the things that helps us out in this endeavor is that because we've already committed to saying we're not going to come back this year, it gives us the opportunity to get really good at doing kind of the testing piece and beginning to implement all of those things. So yeah, I don't question. I think, if we could test every day, that would be the greatest thing in the world. I just don't know if we have the resources and ability to do that.
No, I'm sure couldn't do that, but just seems like once a month is a long time.
And just to add to that, Charlene, is that also many of the return plans that they have in place are staggered. So, we would be placed on some people would be on an A schedule, some would be on a B schedule. So they wouldn't see, you would keep cohorts as well of your employees coming to work. So you space out the time, but yeah, it's mind boggling. Just when you think about how it started with one person and how it's exploded. And then it's like, well, how do you control it? So yeah, I would agree with you. It's going to be interesting.
Okay.
I just want to say that I did see that food distribution on the news this morning. they had it on the news, so. Yay.
Yeah.
Hayward.
There was an article that came out that said that Hayward regularly turns down up to 200 families for food distribution. So I know the city does its pieces and there's other organizations that do it. So it was an opportunity for the school district to kind of say, how can we fill in? So yeah, it's never enough. But we definitely are trying to do what we can do. Again, you know, as we look at our marketing, as we look at projecting our image. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the business of being in service to people. So that was an extension. So I didn't see the newscap, but I do know that they did go to some of the sites. So that's good. Good to hear.
Fernando was
Publicity.
glad that he was at Treeview and they didn't go to Treeview.
Well, I was kind of disappointed because obviously there's a clear difference in kind of when you look at some of where our school sites are, what the need is, and the such. And when we're distributing food at Glassbrook, Tyrell, Schaefer Park, all of these schools in one, and they're going through it fast. And then we're at Treeview, which to me is like the other side of the world when it comes to Hayward. It's way out there, and I'm just like, there just wasn't the traffic. I've helped out with things at the hub before, and you get the traffic, and there just wasn't that. I would have had hoped that I could have had a little more action.
Did they deplete their stock? Or did they
I'm not sure. I left at about 12:30, so they still had some. So I know that they were planning on putting it in the refrigerator and just resuming the next day. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened.
Nice. And don't talk about South Hayward. I went to Treeview. That's where I grew
I'm
up.
not talking negative about it. I'm just saying it's way out there.
It is. It is.
Okay, section D, consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Actually, we have public comment first,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but
Sorry.
we don't have any guests, only family. Debbie and Jackie are the only ones here. So now we
Okay.
can move to the consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
On the consent agenda, could I have a motion that we accept the agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay. Second?
I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about the items?
I noticed there's a lot of things on hold, which I guess there would be. So I guess that's just the way it is for right now.
My computer.
What
is
ends up
not
happening
responding.
is that I think it goes both ways. I mean, because we're not in full action, in session, what the real need is. But then there's also some just kind of budgetary constraints that we're looking at. So yeah, there's it's an interesting time. I think it's an interesting time for us if we hire, what does that look like? It definitely, based on the situation, any new job, any orientation to a new job, and I don't mean the orientation where we kind of explain what HUSD is about, but the job train, it's a different time. And then like YEP, especially with YEP, I mean, that's just a program that just isn't really, it's running, but I don't think it's where, it's not on all 8 cylinders.
Seemed like there was quite a few out on medical leave.
We anticipate an uptick in that. You have folks that either COVID related, or you have folks that are looking for accommodations through the interactive process. I'm wondering just what we're going to look like with regards to maternity leave moving forward as we kind of start projecting the timeline of COVID in March, and kind of what are the effects that might end up hitting us.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find that out. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Information discussion, classified staffing report.
Well, I think we kind of already went over that. There was a lot of leaves of absences, but not too much movement. Not like Fernando was saying, not too many new people, not too many people resigning, just a lot of people taking leaves, unfortunately.
Okay. The 2019, 2020 Personnel Commission Annual Report Draft.
Okay, so here is the draft. Typically, this is just the first page here, the cover page with our mission statement on the front. And then typically we do highlights of things that the Personnel Commission has done this year. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do much because we're all at home. So I thought it would be something that we could highlight, the COVID-19 pandemic and how we've dealt with it. So I will send you guys over a PDF of this as well. I meant to before the meeting, but time got away from me. So I'll send you a PDF of this to make sure that you all can take a look at it and give us any suggestions of changes. And then we are still working on the activities and statistical comparisons and the diversity in the workplace. We moved over, as you know, to a new HRIS system. And well, it's more than just HR, it's everything. So we moved over to a new one. So we're having a little bit of problems correlating all of the information, but we'll definitely have it by next meeting for the final. And then this is just the standard Personnel Commission info. So once I get these reports populated, I will send it over to you and you guys can review it closely. Okay, but is there any suggestions on anything that you would like to see included?
No,
I like the functions of the Personnel Commission. I know last year we talked about that. I think that's important to be in there.
Yeah. And I'm glad there's something in here about the COVID pandemic. Thinking about in future years, if somebody looks back at this report and it kind of tells why there isn't a lot of activity, we weren't in session. So I think it's good that that's pointed out, just for future reference, in case anybody could possibly forget this year.
But even if, so this one has been updated, but you know, there really hasn't been, I mean, as much as you know, we kind of put the brakes on everything, there really hasn't been that much decline in our HR activities. No. HR has still been very, you know, moving right along. So you'll see the written here, yes, we have slowed down a little bit. We're at about half of what we did last year. But our oral is right on track, and we did still, we were able to do a couple of performance. But if you look, you know, we still have, you know, we declined a little bit here on the examinations announced, the intercession, summer school. I think that was capturing, I mean, we still had a small summer school, that our applications have actually increased. So, which is a sign of the times too. So, but then our applications rejected is about the same. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, with our final numbers, but even here, you know, we did decline here on the eligibility list. We've only added 779 instead of our, you know, we usually are a little over 1,000. But we're still, you know, Debbie and Jackie are still busy. They're still
cranking it out.
And you can attribute that to by second week of March, we were kind of like on pause, and then we didn't resume as normal as possible in this environment until July. Mm-hmm. So it did take us a while. So you figure March, April, May, and June. That's 4 months. Right. That's a quarter of the. Is that a quarter? That's a third of the year, according to my math.
More than a quarter, yeah.
Yeah. So
it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't the springtime though a little slower for you guys normally, or?
To a certain extent. I mean, it's probably, you know, and I don't want to speak too much for Jackie and for Debbie, but I think what also impacted us was, you know, intercession, the summer school, the extended school years that kind of carry over. And I think those typically get counted for the previous year, for like 2020. But yeah, I mean, there's both, but yeah, you're kind of on, because we do kind of start to slow things down in February, in anticipation of any reductions, just so that we can hold positions for folks in case they're impacted. But you know, again, we you know, They would say that they don't slow down. So and
No.
because I work with them, Pat, I'm going to say they don't. No, we don't slow down then.
No, and you know, and you guys will see too in the staffing report, usually the springtime is an uptick of leaves of absences too. We always see a real strong showing of leaves during right before and after any kind of break, spring break or winter break. You see it right at the beginning of the school year, and you see it right at the end of the school year. So that kind of, you know, pushes us into go mode when we see, you know, 50 leaves of absences come in one day. So, and then, you know, you also have the resignations and the retirements towards the end of the school year. So those usually start coming in. They usually notify us early. So we always try to get our recruitments done early as well. So, you know, we can have someone sitting in that seat come August when we return, when someone's retired. So spring, you know, just, it doesn't slow down. So anyways, once I get these reports finished, I will send you over the PDF. And then, like I said, if you have anything to add, we'll present the final, and we can still make adjustments on the final too in January 2021.
Okay, so then this will go to the board eventually?
Yeah, the next meeting when we bring the final, we'll discuss, we'll pick a board meeting to send it to.
Okay, so there's
work-
not one set, okay.
No,
No,
not
I'll
yet.
work with Matt in terms of that, because I know that they're trying to work on their governance calendar and the such. So we haven't set one yet.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, next section, action items, ratification of eligibility lists.
I move to ratify the eligibility list for the positions that are mentioned in the item.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor say aye of accepting the ratification of the eligibility list.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Since we don't have any other items, I'm closing the meeting and we will go to closed session.
Okay, and also just wanted to add that we don't necessarily have anything that there would need to be a report on decisions in closed session, so we can adjourn the entire meeting.
Okay.
Okay, and
Okay,
I sent you guys the closed session link, so you guys should have that at the top of your email, so I will see you guys shortly.
okay.
Okay.
See you
Chrissy.
right
Yeah, I
there.
gotta find it.
Thank you.
See you there.